know we're on the bridge right now, but it's the best bridge in the world.
Do you feel like failure is a step to the success?
I was programmed to succeed. My dad was a freak.
It's hard to achieve career like that because it's more difficult to fill the hole when you're alone.
I love my supporter, but I also love my haters. Stay around.
23, 24 years old, I had a Range Rover Sport, was my first car, I was living in a mansion, I had £1 million, many millions in the bank account, etc. I had a girlfriend.
Six-pack?
Working on it.
Hi, welcome to The Bridge. Concept is simple. Incredible guests, amazing and diverse background, all connected not only to each other, but also to you.
So today we got the privilege to welcome one of the best pianists in the world, Khatia Buniatishvili, the talented businessman Steven Bartlett, the World Cup champion Thierry Henry, and to finish, the MMA champion Francis Ngannou. We are going to talk about different topics today and share with you the most relevant stories. But keep in mind, we are not going to do a random show because you already know what we do. We strive for greatness. The bridge is on.
I would like to open the show with you, Khatia, because you growing up during the war in Georgia, and we would like to know how you connect with the music during this time.
Well, during the war, I was really tiny, so I don't have the very clear memory of that. But I would say the 90s in Georgia and most of the post-Soviet countries was quite struggling and difficult to live because there was chaos on the streets. So there was no kind of security feeling. There was lots of criminality and financial disaster. So I was raised with my family, of course, in the, not in the center of the city. It was really, comme on dit, banlieue. So there was not an easy time for me, but I guess when you're a child, it feels like something normal. You think that's the reality, and you start to dream and you start to imagine things. I guess my security feeling was found in my imaginary, in my parents' arms, of course, and I guess books and music, art. For many people, it was sports. For my father, for example, they had this feeling that we had no electricity, no water, no hot water. But when we had electricity and there was a football, it felt like luxury, So everybody found their own of happiness and harmony in the imaginary, which was realized took some forms and shapes in kind of music or in football or in different forms of art or anything that is created by a human being. So I guess I'm part of that.
And you start to like music and piano at that time, or it was?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I started music. My mother started when I was in her belly, when she told me that it was not really clear what she was meaning, but now I know because I just said a daughter, so I know what does it mean. It means like you were listening already when you were there in the belly of your mother. And then later the piano was there. Of course, it was a bad piano. It was upright piano and it was probably not tuned and it was quite old and not a great grand, as you say, but it was our piano and it was there in the room, and first communication was with my parents and my sister, who was already born, and the piano, because it was there in the room. So I thought it was a normal thing in my life. I thought everybody had that. I thought it's part of a family.
Okay, and what was the first music that came from you when you have that piano?
The first piece I remember, it was not even classical, it was ragtime.
For me, no, it's not my generation, maybe, I don't know.
Oh, thank you very much. It's not my generation either, but it's classics, so it's working anytime. So I remember ragtime, yes. But of course classical music, but also folk music, also pop music. My mother was not so, she was my first teacher and she's probably going to be my last teacher. But she, in life and in music, in everything, but she was very open-minded in music and she liked different styles, and which is not usual for classical musicians because they're more concentrated on one thing. But she wasn't like that, and she had no frames, and it felt like not normal at that kind of in that aspect. But afterwards it was a plus because it gave me more freedom and it made a bridge between different kind of styles and connected me with other genres and in your mind. It's not necessarily on stage with someone else, but in your mind you're more open-minded, I guess.
Someone is connected with the music, feeling something special with a song or something?
I'm a great pianist too. I'm a great pianist too.
No, keep me out of the music. Step by step.
It's not your thing, really?
Keep me out of it.
Yeah. Not great. I can be better than you.
You just say
maybe.
great.
No.
Competition
I'm a random pianist. I started to play a little bit during the World Cup because like you are in the hotel, you don't have a lot of things to do except trainings and games. So with my brother Kama, we used to play piano in the room. And
what song?
Okay, so I started to play piano with Ludovico Einaudi, Experience.
Okay. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite songs. So I remember the first time I listened to this song, I was like, okay, I'm gonna play piano to play this song. So I started to play. Alphonse Auréala also plays very well. So after the World Cup, I asked to my parents to buy me a piano, and I started to improve every single day. I tried with the app that I have on my phone, and right now I'm able to play some songs. I'm okay, but it's good, because it can help you also to be more concentrated, because it's really difficult to handle the two hands at the same time. But I think it's a good thing.
There's something in common with football. You told us about the hand to do all the good movement in the good time, good timing, everything. Is it the same with the feet or not at all?
I think for me, and tell me if I'm wrong, but when I play piano, I always keep to stay in the present moment. Because every time sometimes, you want to think about, okay, what is the next thing? It's like on the pitch, sometimes you always have to stay in the present moment. You don't have to think about what will happen after. Also for the mental part, before a game, sometimes you think about, okay, what if I do things bad? You just have to stay focused on the present moment, what you have to do right now, and to be concentrated on doing your thing now, not after, not before.
Okay.
It's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, I play and I'm like, okay, what is the next?
That's where mistake
But like
comes,
my brain is already like, it knows. So it does it like normally, and you're like, okay, the brain is incredible.
It's true on two levels. One is technical level, which means if you think about what's next, you
Practice.
might do a mistake when you're playing. And another thing is that when you're living the moment, it's like living the moment like it's your last time, it's your last concert or last, game. It's really important to be there, present.
Like it was the last one.
Yeah, you're facing almost the death during the... Yeah, that's what gives, this very specific... charisma to a concert, when you have a feeling that it's your last time and public feels that, and so they have feeling of enthusiasm or something that is strong that moves inside. So I guess that's for us it's not last, but it's the feeling of doing like last time. It
like
gives you
dance.
like some kind of fatality to the situation. It's imaginary, but
kind of dramatic. Yeah.
It's important, I guess, for doing something really profoundly well, not just well, but give everything, everything you have in the moment.
Interesting. Speaking about childhood, Francis, you had a difficult childhood in Cameroon. You start to work really early. It was not good work. You were kids. How you can stay a child when you don't have a real childhood?
I think growing up, I've been complaining about my childhood because, I always feel like other kid was looking down to me because I was always like the guy that didn't have anything, So it was a frustration at some point. But at the same time, I realized at some point in life that that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because without that, I wouldn't be who I am today. You know, it was like a life education. You know, life managed to taught me everything and to get me prepared to whatever was going to happen in the future, you know. But in my childhood, my parents divorced. I was 6 years old. You know, I started to live in different families. My primary school, I went to 6 different schools. So I never been attached anywhere. Never had like a friend. So still this day, I don't have a childhood friend because I was moving constantly. And by the time I get attached in one place, I'm already moved, you know. And then I also have the challenge that at school, I wasn't a good profile. I was the guy that they're going to kick out from the class because he didn't have a pen to take note or a book to take note on, or hasn't paid a scholar fee, or didn't have his shoes to do like a, physical activities, nothing, you know. So I was a subject of shame, and other kids wasn't excited to be a friend with kids like me, even though we were forced to start work hard early on. I think I started to work in the sand mine. I was 9 years old and my brother was 11 years old. We were working in the sand mine to support the family, to sustain, you know, and it wasn't enough. So until like maybe I was 13, then one day like they kicked me out of the school It was about 3 p.m. and I was so frustrated about it. I was pissed, like I was feeling it here. Then I'm like, okay, what's really happened? Like those kids, what do they have more than me? You know, I'm always a subject of shame. You know, they look at me like I do not deserve to be there with them. But in fact, I even deserve more. Whatever I have, even though it's less than what they have, I deserve that better because I earned it. I work hard to have it, you know. I never go to vacation. I never go to holidays. Every time that I have a free time, it was a time for me to go work in order to like maybe buy a book or pay my scholar fee or stuff like that. So that day, I think that was like the day that thing changed. And for me, he was like, okay, this is going to change. I'm going to prove this kid that I'm not beneath them. In fact, I'm even better than them because they are just lucky to have like a parent that can provide for them. But they don't know the hard work that I do. So I earn whatever I have, even though it's less, right? So from that moment, that was my challenge. That was the moment that I knew that I'm going to do something special, something bigger, something outstanding to prove that those kids, because just doing a normal thing wouldn't be enough at that point. Then combined into that, there was an element of my dad that didn't have a good reputation of fighting and stuff because they didn't have like a structure of fighting stuff. So he was fighting. He was getting into trouble a lot.
He was the world fighting champion.
Yeah, but, you know,
Different
the only
kind of
reason
fight.
why you're a champion is like when you fight in the structure
Yeah,
environment.
got you.
You know, if I go out there and then I start to fight in the street, no, I'm not a champion anymore. I'll find myself in the police station right away, right? Yeah. So it's all about the environment, the circumstances. So, and that was something that also helped me a lot from my dad being like that. I realized that, I have a power. I like to express this physical power, but how can I do it without doing the same thing as my dad? You know, and all my life he was a challenge, and people was always like associate me to my dad. Like I will get somewhere, people will be like, yes. If I do something randomly, people will be like, yes, he's violent as his dad. You know? And I hated that like so much. That the same day, at the same age, I was 13. I realized that I can put everything together. I think that's the day that I put everything together. I like fighting, and I want to do something that's outstanding. So I think boxing is the thing that can make everything together. I will prove that those kids that I am not beneath them. And from that day, that was when I decided to become a world-class fighter. But problem, I never saw in my eyes a gym. I never saw a gym. And there wasn't a gym in 50-kilometer radius.
Really? Even outside gym?
I was in the village. How come can I? And
That's true.
My free time that I had at that time was to go work in the sun mine. So how come I'm gonna find myself in the gym? There's not a gym around, there's nothing. So from 13 years old until I was 22, I've been having this dream without ever seeing a gym. The first time that I laid my eye on the gym, I was 22 years old, and I was in the village at that time. I'm like, okay, enough is enough. I will stop dreaming, and I really gonna take action to live my dream, to make this dream become true. So I left the village. I went to Douala, to the city, and I didn't know anything there. I found a gym, a place, and go there to
For the first time?
start boxing. Yes, for the first time. And people thought I was very old now, 22 years old, you can't do anything. Mike Tyson was a champion of the world champion at 19, and they give you like, you know, they're trying to break your mental down, and I'm like, yes, that's true. But, you know, I'm gonna give it a try.
You just wanted to change the world?
Yeah, I wanted to give it a try because when people was talking and tell you that it's not possible, they will take example of people that have tried, people that have been in the better condition than you, and they try and they didn't succeed, and they will show them. You watch them on news sometime, and you look the house that they are living into. I'm like, look, you say you want to do books. Look at those guys, and you'll be like, man,
It's gonna be hard.
It's gonna be hard. But I love the thing, you know, and I think that I love it, and I want to give it a shot. Maybe I might not even do as good as them, but I want to give it a shot.
And
I want
reach
to
your
try,
full potential.
give my best. Hey, guess what? At the end of the day, it's my life. I have a right to make my life as I want, to give a shot of something. I might fail. It's still my right to fail. If I don't have a right to do so in my life, where else am I going to do that, right? So let's enjoy it. So I give it a shot, but very early, very quick, I realized that I'm not going to do anything in Cameroon. So if I stay in Cameroon, I'm gonna end up in the same place as those people. So.
No gym is difficult. Even me, when I go to Cameroon, when I go to the village of my parents, like when you go to the village, it's day offs for me because we don't have any gym. You know?
No, they don't.
So that's difficult.
Then I realized I have to leave and to go somewhere. How to leave Cameroon, bro? I never work. I can't even apply for a visa. It's a waste of time because my profile is definitely not the type of profile that they want to see around. They don't want you to bring your misery in their country. So they want to make sure that you can afford the cost of living wherever you're going. Bro, I couldn't even afford the cost of living in Cameroon. Why? How do you want me to afford the cost of living where I'm going? So
France was your first target?
No, France wasn't my target. Like when I left Cameroon, France wasn't my target. In fact, I didn't have a target. I was just going. I have a backpack full of clothes and shoes. And it was April 3rd, 2012. I decided that, okay, I'm going to leave. I'm going to go somewhere, find a better opportunity. I cannot apply for visa. I cannot do such of things. So how can I do to get somewhere? You know, just trying to go country after country, use any type of transportation. Sometimes you have to walk, take bike, motorcycle, truck, car, every transportation that can be used at that moment, you will use it. And that's how I left Cameroon to Nigeria, then Nigeria to Niger. Then we crossed from Niger now. We have to cross the desert to go to Algeria. And then cross Algeria, Morocco, and from Morocco now, I was in Morocco for almost a year, to cross from Morocco to Spain. That was the biggest part of the journey now, because that alone is almost a full book, you know, from Cameroon to Morocco, okay, 3 weeks, really quick.
How long did it take to do the whole travel from Cameroon to France for you?
From Cameroon to Morocco was like 3 weeks. It's okay. Now you're going to cross from another continent to one continent to another one. That was the hell of a challenge. So I was in Morocco for like almost 1 year, 11 months and 1 week until I made it. You know, I made a lot of attempt in the ocean, and then I also did a lot of attempt in the fence, because there is this fence like from Nador to Melilla. You know, there's a Spain territory in Morocco. Two, in the east is Melilla, and in the west is Ceuta. So we would attempt to like trying to go to Melilla by crossing those fences with barbed wire and all those stuff. Never work, get like caught by all those barbed wire, you know, for like, I make a couple attempts there. I wasn't very comfortable there. I always prefer the ocean. And then every time I go to the ocean, we get caught and sent back in the desert.
In the desert?
Yeah, South Morocco, and come back again, you know, regroup, and then trying to make it back, you know.
Thierry, you grew up in Les Ulis, not in the same context, I hope so, but we just talk about childhood. It was an important moment. What was the moment when football became more than a passion for you?
First and foremost, before I start talking about my story, I feel very like humbled and kind of privileged in a certain way, if I can say that. I didn't have to deal with what you had to deal with, but I agree with you. We all have our stories, and we all have our demons, and we all had to, at one point, come across something that we have to surpass, whatever it is. Yours is just, I mean, wow, you're the same. I mean, I'm gonna try to explain mine and share that with you. I said to everybody, and that's why I feel very humbled, because it's not the same battle, but it is a battle. Mine was a mental battle with myself, and you had to do the same thing in a different way. The hardest thing that I had to do in my life was to put a smile on the face of my dad. Did I do it? Yes, but after. So the little Thierry never had that joy. It was very tough. So I always say that what you fear will eventually master you. So if you feel failure, you try to do everything not to fail, right? So you're not scared to try again, but then it masters you, because that's what makes you go. So I always tried to please my dad. It was the hardest thing ever. I played in games. I was good, not good. Was I scared? Yeah, I was scared. I'm not going to lie. We like to pretend, footballers, that we're not scared, that we're not in pain, because it fits the bill, right? You can't say that you are vulnerable. I don't know why, which, you know, I know we're on the bridge right now. It is the best bridge in the world, is when you are vulnerable and you can show empathy to someone, then you can bring that person along with you, and they can relate to what you're going through. And I think the word that you were looking for, and that's what I think, whatever, if it's what you do, what I do, what you did, what you're doing also, same thing for me. I understood that later. I'll go back to football, don't worry.
No problem. But that was my point.
But one thing that's very important that I understood later, I thought that for a very long time, it was to win titles. Because my dad was a certain way, and in my mind, it's like, you gotta win titles. If not, it's not great. What did you do in your life if you don't win title? If you don't bring title back? But I think one thing that we do underestimate while we are doing what we do, whatever skill you have, is that inspiring people, transcending people,
Absolutely.
and inspiring people. Once you have that, you won titles.
Absolutely.
I understood that late. So regardless of what it is, even if I don't understand what you do, the way you're gonna play, gonna make me feel it.
Exactly.
I don't care who you are. I understood that late, don't get me wrong. And that's valuable. You know, sometimes people meet me and it's the same. You know, when I see you fight, I went and researched, because I like to do that. See you play, I was like, oh, okay. Damn. Wow. I feel it. You won for me.
Because it's greatness. When you talk about greatness, it's the same language, I think.
It is, but you also, when people can relate, people cannot always relate to skills.
They can
but
relate
they can
to the
relate
purpose.
to the
Absolutely.
purpose of it, the how.
The purpose, the reason
how.
why you're doing it.
And I think that's important. I just wanted to put it out there. But
the soccer was your main purpose when you were young?
Look, Aurélien, I'll share that with you. I was programmed to succeed. My dad was a freak. And so I can only thank him because I don't know anything else. I cannot compare it to any. I cannot go back and have another life.
It's hard. It was like the normal
life. I
life.
cannot go back and have another life. That's the life I had. That's the life I had. You know, you said it before, and I'm not going to mention myself. I'm going to mention Kobe Bryant. I made a deal with myself that nothing's going to make me deviate to where I need to go.
It's you against you.
My dad, whoever, nobody. Like, it's always you at the end of the day. If you want to achieve something, that's the best example ever.
It's not him against Tyson Fury. It's him against him.
But even in life, it's you. Do you want it? You know, we watched something earlier. It's how much do you want it? Do you still want to hit when you hit just an hour before? Understand what I'm saying? Do you still want it when you suddenly are not where he was? He still wants it. I still wanted it. Now, my dad was a freak, so I go back to that. I was programmed to succeed. I could have failed, but I tried every day to make sure that I was going to be the best. Was I the best every day? No, I wasn't. But the mindset was, I need to be the best every day. First and foremost for myself, as we play a collective sport, for my teammate. Like, I'm not going to go and fight with you. Not your fight. But you saw the speech going in the field. And I didn't prepare the game well. Or I didn't prepare myself well. I can be bad, but not because I didn't prepare myself well, because that would be a lack of respect for myself and for everybody, for the sport that I love. I was programmed because my dad lived through me.
It was also the dream of your father?
Everything.
He used to play before?
No, if you're inviting him here, he will say if he had the chance, he would have been a great player, but
like
that's a
my
lie.
father.
No, that's a lie.
He used to tell me every day, it's because he didn't want it.
That's a lie. If my dad...
He was trash. Yeah, I can tell. Because I used to go to see my dad every morning.
Calm down.
He used to play. And, you know, I was like looking at him at the training because he used to play in like a small club that he played. And like that, I was like, okay, maybe I want to make it also. And that's how I started. But he was trash.
But he does he did motivate.
But he was my role model.
Yeah, he motivated you. So that's what he was.
Yeah,
saying.
no matter what, it was a motivation. Whatever motivation you can get.
An inspiration.
It was an inspiration. But at one point, it starts to be heavy.
It's sense of responsibility.
It is heavy because, like I said to you, I was always trying to make him happy. And along the way, you kind of like start to be, you don't enjoy what you're doing. You know, when sometimes
you burn out.
It's just like, you know, when sometimes your medicine can also be your poison.
Yeah. If
Because
it's not the good balance.
It's tough when you trap in between what you know and how you feel or what you feel. It's a tough place to be trapped in with yourself. And so I wanted to make him happy, but one, I wanted to make him happy to have that nod or that okay. When I wanted it, I never got it. Now I can hear it from anyone and everybody that will tell me how great I was and that they love maybe that sport because they saw me play. But my little guy is still at the bus, still waiting for only that one voice. How do I connect with that guy again?
I have an impression that most of the people who achieve in life, they're kind of doing everything they're doing, apart maybe your story, which is quite particular and almost heroic, I would say. Not almost, heroic. They're doing it in purpose to make exactly smile someone that you love. It's actually in purpose of making someone happy that you love. Most of the time it's that, which is somehow also heavy on your shoulders because you do for your mother, for your father, or maybe someone else to make them proud. You feel this responsibility. On the other hand, it's also a motivation. It gives you something, a goal to do something. It doesn't mean that it defines you, but maybe certain steps that we're doing in purpose to see their message at the end, to see them smile, or to let them say that we are fine. Actually, this time they're really happy about what we did. It has changed for me since my daughter is born. She's now 5 months old. And after the concert, actually, I don't, it was always like that also. I always expect my parents to, if they watch the concert or something, to say what they think, particularly my mother. And since my daughter is born, it's like I'm expecting their reaction, but I'm not stressed about it. That I was never really stressed because I was more lucky they were not really strict. They were very demanding, but not strict. Somehow you are not responsible to someone else anymore. It's just only about yourself and your harmony and your feeling well, and not just making someone proud only, you know? It's just for yourself.
I go back to what Khatia just said. My kids saved me. I don't know where I was going without being connected with my little me. I needed that. I've been looking for that for a very long time. And I know I'm going a stepping back of, as you said, at the end of the day, if you want to know what I've done in the game, you can look at it. But I think that discussion is a bit more important, especially if youngsters are looking at it and see how they see that the champion sometimes doesn't suffer or they don't know. There is something, always, we all have a story. So my kids, I would say to you, saved me because they opened a lot of doors in my head, in my mind that I didn't have. You know, love, emotion, being vulnerable, sharing, love you, hugging, all of that. My kids, I'll share something with you that I did say recently. You might be surprised. But if you did your research, you will know how my dad was, right? So the love, it was tough love. I understand me well, please, I'm not complaining. But when I went to Montreal, right, it was COVID time. I stayed isolated as everybody was at the time, without seeing my family for a year. And not seeing your kids for a year. I don't know if you guys were confined with your families, but I was confined alone, without seeing my kids, and it was tough. But I wanted to say that, then you will understand why. So, okay, obviously I went there to coach and everything. I didn't know, where COVID was going to go. I didn't know how it was going to be, and I love football. I came back home. As you can imagine, being isolated, alone, with yourself. And I always avoided everything that happened in my life because I always had something. Suddenly, you, as you mentioned before, you're talking to yourself and trying to deal with your demons that you never dealt with, that you put under a carpet just because you didn't want to. I was always trying to find something to do to make sure that I wasn't going to be alone with myself, because I knew where I might have gone with that. I don't know if you know. But anyway, I was there, I came back. I fast forward, I have to go back, knowing that we don't know where COVID is going again, and blah, blah, and so on. So I'm going to share something with you. I never felt, understand me well, but you will understand, because of looking for always approval. My happiness was always through people. My sadness was always through people. So I never felt like a human being. I always felt like people loved me because I could play football. Understand what I mean? Like, because I want something from you, Thierry. Like, oh, you had a good game. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, if I didn't have a good game, would you like me? I suffered with that a lot in my career. So it made me go into a mode where he will tell you, the guy that saw me play, into, hey, I'm here to kill, man. Nobody really cares about Thierry. They cared about Henry.
It's a bit sad.
No, I wasn't sad, but when I said to you that my kids saved me, I will explain. So I need to explain that, and I know people will say, oh yeah, right, you never felt human. No, understand me well. It's a sort of a way of explaining it. But I packed my bag, so I go back to when I was in London. I packed my bag, I was about to leave. So I said bye to everybody. Daddy's leaving, blah, 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 blah. And then I was about to leave. And everyone, my kids, my girlfriend, even the nanny, everyone started to cry. So when everyone started to cry, I was like, for the first time, they were crying for Thierry. So I felt, really, I put my bags down. I'm like, wow, they see me. Not me, but they see me. So I put my bags down, and I just went, man, I'm staying here. They see me. So that's why I said my kids saved me, because without them, I would have gone and maybe, I don't know what would have happened to me. And people don't like to talk about it. Mental health, depression. Like, I don't know if in my life I have been in depression because I didn't know the signals. You deal with it. You understand what I mean? So you don't go for it. But then that's why I said why my kids saved me, because at that moment they made me connect for 5 good minutes with the little me. And I was powerful because I had the love.
That's a true love.
Yeah, love and hate of people sometimes, because whether you play well, you don't play well, you get it or you don't get it, however it is. But I was like, all right, that's cool. But that was genuine. And that feeling that I had for 5 minutes was really indescribable.
Wow.
I don't know. I mean, I know you guys maybe would have been more interested into what made me, how I played that game under that game.
No.
But I think that's very important to talk about it, because people don't like, I'm not saying don't like the how, but the how is very important. And I struggled, and I still struggle. I think it's important when we arrive at a certain level to make sure that we can pass those messages on, and it's good to talk, to be vulnerable, and to try to be open. Thank God I had kids to make me understand that.
Steven, you share the same feeling than them in your
Yeah,
opinion
it's
also?
really interesting to listen to. I've interviewed about 300 or 400 people that are at the top of their industry across multiple industries, from acting to athletes to Israel Adesanya to you name it, sports stars, Lampard, whatever. And what's interesting is at the very root of their psychology, there's something that's driving them. But we often think of these sort of hero stories as being very intentional motivation. Like, I set out to achieve something, I had a plan and I did it. Whereas in so many of these cases, and I hear it a lot here, it's hard to distinguish whether you're driven or you're dragged. And in my case, I was dragged by my shame. I came from Africa as a baby, moved to an all-white area. We were the poorest family. Sorry?
Botswana, right?
Botswana, yeah. So we were the poorest family, and we were the only black family in the area.
Oh, really?
So you understand the context of everything. You understand the value of everything by the context in which you see it. Think about like a steak menu. The expensive steak is assumed to be better. If you go into an electronics store, if there's 3 TVs there, remove the expensive one, people will choose the middle one. If there's 3, people will assume the cheap TV is going to break, and they'll assume the expensive TV is very bougie. They'll pick the middle one. Value is just about context. And when I was young, in my context, I was the black poor kid in an all-white area. We were actually in a middle-class area, which made it worse. So we moved there with money. By the age of 10, we had no money. The grass at the front of the house is 6 foot high. Windows on the front of the house are smashed. Perfect neighborhood. And so I have the same thing. I have a feeling of shame. It doesn't come from the hero's journey that Francis went on. But again, it's all interpretation based on your context. And that's what I really gained from listening to everyone, was you can arrive at the same conclusion, which for me was shame, but take a completely different journey there. And that's, I think, the nature of both suffering and also motivation is your interpretation on your situation. It's a subjective thing. Objectively, after hearing what Francis went through, I was living in Buckingham Palace. You know what I mean? But I arrived at the same place of shame, because I was the only kid with curly hair, I was the only one with dark skin, and I was the only one that was stealing stuff to pay for the stuff in school. And that feeling of shame, 10 years old, my parents basically stopped coming home. My mother's Nigerian, so she's getting broken into so much in her corner shop that she stops coming home and starts sleeping in the shop. So my dad just leaves his job and goes there. I'm 10, no one's there when I wake up, no one's there when I go home. So you have a kid that has loads of shame because he doesn't have money and wants to be like his friends, isn't even telling his friends the house he lives in. And then you have this big void of independence. And if you have shame and a big amount of independence, you start conducting experiments, selling things, to try and solve for it, which for me was business. Started selling things around the house.
That's how you start business.
That's how I started in business, 12 years old, 13 years old, and then I'm in the school. I hear the school.
And what was your relationship with school? It was not good.
Well, so because my parents weren't there, at 12, 13, I can start making my own rules for life. And I would be in school, I'd hear them talking about the vending machines, and they were going to buy vending machines. In my head, I go, okay, I went to the computer room, sent a bunch of emails. The school got the vending machines for free, and for the first time I ever made profit from them. So you get to that age, you realize because my older brothers.
That's also.
I was the youngest of four, so again, it's context. I look up at my older brothers, they're very smart. I can't pay attention in any classroom for more than 20 minutes. I'm falling asleep in the lessons, I'm spending my time in the exclusion unit where they throw you if you're bad. So at 12, 13 years old, this thought comes into my head, which is, if I'm gonna get what I need to have because of that shame, stuff, money, nice things, it's not gonna be from school. So I stop going to school. I get expelled from school.
At 12?
At 16-ish, by about 16-ish, they kicked me out of school because my attendance is 30%.
Same here. That's why I have shitty English.
Well, it changes.
Obviously, I'm not English native, so that's why.
Well, they unexpelled me. And my headmaster came onto national TV in the UK and said, we let him back into the school because he made the school so much money. Because I was doing all these deals. So I was doing the school trips, the vending machine deals, everything. And then, I got expelled again in the last week of school. Went to university, lasted 1 day in university. And from then on, I've just been building businesses around the world. And I come back to the point about motivation. It's complicated. I interviewed Tim Grover, who was the trainer for Kobe Bryant and for Michael Jordan. And what he told me...
It's powerful.
...is the same that I heard this morning when I spoke to Walter Isaacson, who's just finished following Elon Musk for 2 years. He's followed him for 2 years. Wow. He followed Steve Jobs for 2 years as well. I spoke to him this morning in my house, and he said, we all have a dark side and a light side. Tim said the same thing. And the thing is, they have a two-way relationship. It's the thing that will make you great, your dark side, which is that shame, that insecurity, the trying to please your father, all of those things. But at the same time, it'll be the responsibility of your greatness, but it will also be responsible for your struggle. And when you get older and you've achieved your greatness, you retire, there's a lot of work that needs to be done to unpack that darkness, because it will ruin your life. It will ruin your family. You'll end up with addiction. And this is why a lot of great people who get to the peak of their powers in sport, when they've got nothing else to channel that darkness at, they end up in not a great place.
The way you say it, Steven, is so true. When you stop, you can't balance it out. And I said it before, when your poison is your medicine and you can't balance it out, it becomes your poison. Because the medicine is not there anymore. I always say to people to go back to football or anything. You would have it, it's a bit, I'm not saying that you can play piano or your life, that's not what I'm saying. But a competitor, an athlete, dies. I died. It's weird to explain.
The life after is different.
I died. So, what I understand well, I died, the competitor is dead. That side of the competitor, I'm not talking about playing with my friend and compete cards and play with
video
games. I will never be in that situation again. I dream at night of scoring goals. I'm like, wow, I wish I could still. No, but it's seriously, it is real, because you don't teach people to die.
Yeah.
When you die, you're gone.
There's this term called gold medal depression, which describes how about 70% of Olympians, whether they succeed and win the medals or they fail, often come back from the Olympics with a feeling of depression. Israel Adesanya said it to me. He said, the worst day of my life was the day after I won the world heavyweight UFC title.
The day after.
Johnny Wilkinson said to me, the worst day of his life ever was when he won the World Cup for England, the day after. And they say about...
What about you with the World Cup final? Nah.
No, because it depends. What's your motivation?
Yeah, that's true. What's your purpose?
I don't know. Our motivation was to please people. Thanks to my dad, I always wanted to please people because I was always looking to please him. So I kept that. So for me, our next game, we won the World Cup. I was happy. I said, okay, let me my next game. So there was never, there's never a finish line
Steven,
into that.
What is your purpose, for example, right now? I look at your journey and everything, and I feel like, tell me if I'm wrong, that you became successful at the youngest age.
Yeah, so I think at 18 years old, when I dropped out of university, I called my mother and I said, I'm going to drop out of university. My mother's from Nigeria. So you know how that conversation
How was the reaction?
went. Well, so she's got 4 kids. They've all gone to university.
You're the
youngest one calls her and says, I'm not going to university. My mum can't read or write till this day.
Okay.
She says, I won't speak to you if you don't go back to university. So I didn't speak to her pretty much for about 2 years. That means that I've got no money, so I'm shoplifting food to feed myself in Manchester. And I write in my diary that day, I've got 4 goals before I'm 25. And I was 18 years old. Number 1, make £1 million. buy a Range Rover Sport, get a six-pack and get a girlfriend. The things that invalidate you when you're younger often end up being the things you seek validation from when you're older. And all of those things were the things that invalidated me. Had no money, couldn't drive, all my friends could. Never had a girlfriend because I couldn't bring her back to the house I lived in.
Yeah.
And I was the smallest of, four siblings. So that was my drive then. And then I achieved those things before 25. At 23, 24 years old, I had a Range Rover Sport was my first car. I was living in a mansion, I had £1 million, many millions in the bank account, etc. I had a girlfriend.
Six-pack?
Working on it.
You forgot about that line.
There's no gym?
This is validated. So you're not validated yet. You're not validated yet.
But your goals change. Those things failed me. And sometimes in life, you need to have your goals fail you to realize that they weren't your goals at all. They were someone else's goals. They were social expectation. I got those things. I went on the website to buy the Lamborghini and the mansions and all those things. And I felt a sense of emptiness. From 25 onwards, there was a change in my life. Sold all my stuff, don't have fancy things anymore. And I realized that no destination was ever going to, it was never about the destination. And it speaks to what Thierry's
It was about the journey.
It's all about the journey. And I've worked in psychedelics, the psychedelic industry, using psychedelics to cure mental health disorders. The company I invested in and was the director of went public, $3 billion on the NASDAQ. I've got a software business in San Francisco, marketing business, media company, you name it, Huel, this company here, Whoop, Zoe, all invest in all of them, on the board of some of them. It doesn't matter for me, the industry. It doesn't matter for me, the finish line. What matters is that on the journey, I have these 5 things. Number 1 is you need a sense of forward motion. And they call this the progress principle, which means Sir David Brailsford, who took the British cycling team from nothing to the best ever, says he went there and they were depressed. They felt like they were down and out, they'd won nothing. Of course, everyone knows Sir David Brailsford for making the water bottles a little bigger and the tyres a little bit better and the pillows in the hotel room better. But Sir David Brailsford said to me, it wasn't that. It was when you find small ways to improve, it creates this feeling, this psychological feeling like, quote, we are going somewhere. And when they interviewed people in work, Harvard Business Review asked thousands of people, when's your best day in work? They kept these diaries and everyone points at a day when they had a feeling of progress. It's so important. If you want to keep a team, a company, anyone happy, give them that feeling of forward motion. Number 2 is challenge. I've interviewed a game psychologist and a motivation psychologist, and they all say, if people do anything on the same level of difficulty over and over again, they'll lose motivation.
For sure.
If it's too difficult, they lose motivation. If it's too easy, they lose motivation.
You have to find the right balance.
Everyone's swimming at a different depth in life, and you've got to keep yourself at that right depth where you can just about tread water. And that's where people are most psychologically engaged. Number 3 for me in any industry is control and freedom. So you need a feeling like you've got freedom and control over your work. If people have that, more
That's why you wake up when you want?
Yeah, what part of the reason. But when people don't have that in the studies, they get physiological consequences, cardiovascular issues, just people that don't have a lot of control in their work. And also they get a lot of psychological issues. We're creatures who are meant to be able to have control and freedom. But it's not just us. There's a study that scientists did with rats in a cage. They put a rat in a cage and gave it the opportunity to drink normal water or heroin water. And when it's in a cage alone, it will drink the heroin water. It will become a drug addict. When they do a bigger cage, give it more space, more freedom, they put another rat in there for it and they give it a running wheel. They give heroin water or normal water. It doesn't drink the heroin water. It doesn't become a drug addict. We need freedom. And that actually brings me to the 4th one. Work has to be subjectively meaningful to you. So if you ask everyone in my team, why are you part of this company? They'll all say different reasons. I don't care. They'll say, I do it because of the impact it has on people. I do it because I love cameras. It doesn't matter. As long as they have their own meaning in the work they're doing, they'll stick around. And that's what my why is. It's not really the answer that people expect, but if I have those 5 core components, I will be happy in anything I do. The last point, which is number 5, which is connection. Notice the thing that they added to the rat's cage was exactly, they added another rat. And in work and in life, if you're surrounded by a group of people that you believe are there to support you, it not only insulates you from stress, it decreases your chance of all-cause mortality, which is dying from stress if you go through something really difficult by 30%, but it also makes the work so much more meaningful. The trophies you guys lift, I'm sure a part of that is because of the team that you went on the journey with. And you can have all of the other 4, right? All of those other things I said, but if you're not doing it with a group of people you like, it sucks. It sucks. I've worked at call center jobs where I had, all these things. And I was working with a bunch of, can I swear? Not nice people. The job sucked.
But it's true. I started to learn a book, which is your why.
Yeah.
Because I feel like your why, your purpose in life, it's really, really important. Because when you succeed, for example, at the youngest age, what like you're gonna have to do after? And that's why you have to find every time like a new goal, new challenges. Like when you succeed to something, you have to find another way to find this extra motivation. Otherwise, you're gonna die. That's why some people, for example, you can see like in different sectors, you can start to become famous, to become successful at the youngest age, but if you don't have like a real purpose, you're gonna die because at some point, some other people, they will reach you and you're not gonna be the best ever.
But I think the happiness is the most important part, because to be successful, what is the success? Sometimes success is not about money,
it's
about
small improvements,
famous.
as you said.
It's not about fame, it's about to be happy. And I think it's hard to find the way to be happy.
I'll give you one idea that I've come to learn over the years, and it reflects on, I think, a lot of our different stories. When my company reached a very large valuation, and I woke up that morning and I looked at my phone in that hotel room in Manchester, and I worked out what my net worth was now, how much I was worth at, say, 24, 25 years old, I felt a huge amount of anticlimax, because that 12-year-old kid that felt all that shame had convinced this guy, this 25-year-old guy, that there would be confetti and a marching band and all those kids the kid that called me the N-word, he would be there and he'd say, I'm so sorry. And the unmet expectation causes unhappiness. A guy once said to me, we are happy in life when our expectations of how our life is supposed to be going are met. And we're unhappy when our expectations go unmet. So my mother getting a hot bowl of jollof rice in Africa, she was euphoric. But you go to Mayfair, you see a billionaire's steak not come medium rare like they asked for, you see fury. And I see it in myself. The first time I got on a plane to go on a holiday, I was 23 years old, and I'm sat in economy, and I'm having the time of my life. I can't believe that this tin can is going to try and fly to Thailand. I'm looking at the safety brochure. I'm putting on like the shoes they give you. I'm like, oh, fast forward 5 years. I'm running a global business. I'm living in New York City. I'm flying first class. I run on the plane, throw my bag up, get my laptop out and just try and type as fast as I can. And I remember that day looking over to my left and seeing a young lady sat in business class or first class for the first time. She's got the champagne, she's sipping it, she's tapping her, I think he's called Dave, on the shoulder. She's going, Dave, look, they've got a shop on the plane. She's putting on the robe, and I look over and I go, that used to be me.
I traveled 2 days ago with my uncle. It was his first time in first class.
And you'll see in their face what you lost.
Exactly.
And the reason you lost it is purely because your expectations of how your own life should be going increased. When your expectation goes up of your life, like it has now, because you get to travel nicely, your happiness goes down.
You lose the value of what makes you happy earlier. I remember even like from the beginning when I was negotiating with the UFC before everything fell apart, like before I started, I knew that I couldn't win that fight, but I wanted to hold my ground. So the only thing that was most important for me is to stick for what I want, And at that time, I tell myself, like, if this means I have to go back in Africa and farm, I'm going to go back and farm. In fact, I love farming, right? So fighting is not what defines me, right? I can do something else and still be happy. As long as it goes my way, I do it in my own willing, I will be happy, right? I don't need to be a champion to be happy. I don't need to do this to be happy. I could have never become a champion. I will still be happy as long as I give everything that I had, as long as I try hard, I will be happy. When I train for a fight, you don't know if you do good, what's going to happen in the fight. You can step in and the first action, you just maybe throw your knee or your ankle or something, get hurt, even without fighting. Then you have to lose a fight, But since I have this thing that I can control, I have one thing that I can control is how to prepare myself. Then I get to this aisle that I'm walking to a fight. I'm walking the workout. I will ask myself, I will always question myself, did I did everything right? Then that's the moment that if you have cheated on training, you
know.
feel yourself and like, oh man, that training that I missed that day, I should have go, you know. But if you done everything right, you're in peace with yourself. You go there.
What's driving you now?
Huh?
What's driving you now?
Just get the best out of myself. Do the best that I can possibly do. I don't have a goal of achieving this, achieving that. Where can I go?
You know, you said at the start you were trying to prove those kids wrong.
Yeah.
Are you still trying to prove those kids wrong?
No, I'm not trying to prove anybody. As I say, like, I get to the point, and I think that's the moment that I really find my happiness. I have my own balance in me. Like, it's me. It's not about people. It's not about people appreciation. Do I do things right? You know, what do I want? Is it okay? Am I doing it the right way? What happened tomorrow? How would I be viewing myself in 10 years? How would I be telling my story to my kid in 10 years, 20 years? Is it that I want my life to be? Is it going to be the better story that I can tell them? Yes. Then it's okay. I just do my best, you know.
I have a question related with that. Okay. Oh, you have to leave.
Yeah, I've got a flight to Johannesburg.
Oh, okay.
Joe Bird.
Thank you, Steven. You are really successful now, but you also challenging this musical and typical musical
industry.
This industry is pretty strict. And is it hard when you are a woman, a different woman?
Change the rules.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was not my purpose to change the rules. I tried
But
to
you
change
did.
the rules only when they told me not to do things as I felt to do it. When I felt that something was not accepted from myself, which I didn't want or could not change, I decided simply to be myself. And simply that fact change certain rules in the understanding of certain people. It is hard because especially, conductors are mostly, you have remarked, they're mostly men. Nothing against that, but simply because it was not accessible for women for a long time. Why? Because conductor was the most powerful person in this industry, if you can call it this way, because he was like he was a leader of so many people, and during a long time, conductor was, and also today is very important personality in the musical industry, let's say. And it was not for women, mostly it was for men. Now it's changing. But soloists like pianists, singers, violinists, etc., especially women, they're kind of a part of the concert if you're playing with the orchestra, which is more like a little kind of decorative, something beautiful as a flower, as a part of the whole decoration, but not as the main person of the concert. And I somehow never liked this kind of trying to fit to the situation of mood of the conductor, and especially it was men, and it's kind of felt a little like feeling a little too decorative, but not like essential in a way. And so I tried to do my career as a soloist. I preferred to, instead of pleasing a conductor, I preferred to do solo recitals, which meant being on stage, all alone on stage. And it's hard to achieve career like that because it's more difficult to fill the hall when you're alone, rather than having support of the orchestra and whole industry behind you. But I said I prefer to do it this way. And actually, until now, I have made this career without even playing with the major, most important orchestras in the world. I've never played with them, and I made it by filling the halls myself. And I'm kind of proud about that. And also, it's not a message, but I would say everything is possible. We think that there are some systems that make the careers, and there you cannot take another road, but actually it is possible to have your own way if you have some potential of doing it, and if you're working hard and daring to do certain things.
I think it's really important, not only for us, but also for the new generation, to share some stuff that, it's not only about music, sports, everything. It's about the human being. To see some people so successful like you, it's cool to see another face of your success. So it's good to see that. Do you think, Aurélien, you are the new generation?
Are you trying to say we are old?
No.
How old are you exactly?
I think I'm older than you.
How old are you, if I may ask you?
Me, I'm 23.
Okay, yeah, really young. Yeah. Come on,
It's not rude, Francis, please.
No. I'm going to be 24 in about 2 months, so it's going to be...
Wow.
Wow.
No gift. Don't try to have a gift or something. No, my point, it was, maybe it's different when you are young in this world with social media to connect with the public, the audience. Is it most natural for you? Because when Khatia told us about the public, the industry, everything is strict and all of that, maybe right now it's easier to
Connect
change the things and connect people.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like we grew up with social medias. So for sure, I will say it's easier right now to connect with fans, with the public in general. But then it's also hard because when you got the social medias, I mean, right now, everybody is able to say what they want. Mm-hmm. So in a certain way, it's great for us because we can share our thoughts about like everything and every topics in general. But it's also difficult because like when you're young and you receive all like the feelings of other people, it's difficult to handle that because when we were at school, they never told us like, okay, like when you receive like a bad comments for somebody, how can you react? It's also about your mental toughness. And I feel like with the world where we are right now, it's the most difficult part.
Yeah, you were a victim of racism on social media. What was the most difficult? It was to see all of that hate, or it was after, when you thinking about that and you thinking about people who are able to write that, to sing that, and so much people?
I feel like it's hard because we get used to this a little bit because right now, like, for example, after the World Cup, when I missed this penalty, I received a lot of hate on social medias. Like, I remember one time when I was in Monaco, something happened about racism in a stadium and everything. So I feel like it's really hard, you know, to receive everything and to be able to handle and to manage the things in the right way, especially with the social medias now.
But that just make you grow.
Exactly, that's for sure.
That just make you grow as a human, and then you know what to let in, what not to let in, you know, because you also have to understand that social media is just a tool. So
it's
you use it at your own
at
best,
the end of the
and
day.
then it comes with the pro and the cons, and then you're trying to take the best out of it and reject the negativity as much as possible, because if you let that get into you, as Thierry was saying, your medicine can be your poison, you know.
But it's hard. It's hard because I remember, like, for you, coach, I remember, like, when you were young, when you finished the game, you received feedback from what? Journalists, coaches, your entourage. For us, I remember, like, I was 18 when I started my first game in professional, and I struggled maybe the first months. And, you know, you got Twitter, you got Instagram and everything. And, like, imagine you finish your game, you're 18. For example, you finish your first show in piano, you receive, like, 200, 2,000 comments of, hey, you're bad, you're not going to be able to play at the highest level and everything. And it's hard.
It's tough.
It's tough because, like, you're a human.
You're still young.
Yeah, and you can start to be like,
yourself.
oh, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe they're right. And it's difficult really to handle that. But after like years after years, you're like, it's okay, it's gonna be the same no matter what. Like, even if you're good, great, bad, somebody's gonna talk about something about you.
People always have something to do, but remember, if you're not doing anything, nobody will talk about you. So when people talk, that means you're doing something. And over time, I mean, for me, for example, you learn how to navigate into that. I saw a quote once who was very impactful. They say, like, a ship doesn't sink because of the water that is around. The ship gets sink from the water that is inside. So the ship can use the water around to navigate.
Okay, I got you. That's
a
great one, though.
Which is like bad if you get inside. So it's like all those negativity around, you can use them to navigate your way. And it happened to me, like, hate or bad comments sometimes, even journalists sometimes would say something to me, and that would piss me off, but he will motivate me.
You can use it.
You know, I'm like, okay, let's prove these people right.
Let's see what's going
and
on
in
after.
fact, most of the time when I have those stuff, I'm not thinking about people that support me, you know? Like after training sometime, I'm like, let's go one more round. It's for the people for those comment. So I'm using that negativity on my own benefit. I'm like, let's do one more, guys, because I want to see that moment that I proved them wrong. I'm so excited into that. So at the end of the day, they're pushing me to do better. You know, like I use it and I'm like, stay around. I love my supporter, but I also love my haters. Stay around, because if you're not around, I might not have done that one round. If you were not around, I might not have done that one round, extra one round. But as you were around, I did it, and that was beneficial for me. So
That's true. I remember.
It's something that you can learn how to use it for your own interests.
And social media are really important in your sports, because maybe mind game before the game between fighters, or trash talk, or it's just to communicate and that's it.
No, it's important. I think today everything that you do, social media is part of it, whether you like it or not.
It's part of the show.
Yeah, it's part of the show. I mean, you open a restaurant, you need a social media. Whatever you're doing, you need a social media, like a digital platform to communicate, right?
A need.
Because he has a better reach than like physical, you know. You can, from social media, you go on social media, you see something in America, you can find something in America from here, which you couldn't have done it if there wasn't a social media. So it's very important. Not about trash talk. Some people, I think mostly like young fighters, they would think about things like trash talk or stuff like that. But as we were saying before, most of the time it's because they want to fit in. It's not even their personality. You know, they come here and they hear that, oh, this guy is doing this, that. They don't even know who they are. They don't know what they want to do. They are finding the real, who they want to be, what they're going to do, what is right. So they are out there trying to do this. Okay, maybe this is like the trend right now, the trash talk, you know. But at the end, that doesn't matter. Yeah. You know, you get to a terrain, somebody that been there for a little while, he knows that. He doesn't need to talk as much as you want. He knows that when they lock that cage, it's you and him.
It's and about the real moment.
You have only one language. You both have common language, and you're going to see who talk louder at that moment. So he doesn't need that, right? So...
Yeah, and that's funny because you are saying social media are really important. But Thierry, you are not on social media, but also you are. Because you...
But first of all, why?
Exactly what you mentioned before. And I go back to what Francis said. You have a lot more people that actually let the water come on the boat. Because Francis is not the norm. You are not the norm. I'm not the norm. You are not the norm. The norm will let the water come in the boat, and then leads to other stuff that we all know that can lead to when you get bullied, however you want to call it. Can be because of your race or a stupid video or what you believe in, and then can lead. I'm talking about the young people there,
yes,
right, or others that can lead to, you know, commit suicide and whatnot, because it does happen. Why? I'll go back to the point. So I came off social media 3 to 4 years ago, if I remember well, or something like that.
So you had it before?
Just for work.
Okay.
My agent was running it. It was never on my phone.
Not you.
I don't want to be dependent on that. I don't want to take my phone and look at this. I just don't, because they brainwash you.
Do you feel like you miss something sometimes?
Not at all. Not at all. I'm happy. I feel well. I don't feel like I miss anything, trust me. I came off it because at one point it was exactly for what you just mentioned. A lot of players in the Premier League were getting abused, black players. So I said to myself, I'm going to make it a statement to come out of it to see if, in bracket, which I think it's very important, my fame can help to battle against this. Because if you can create an algorithm to stop me down putting a video or something that I don't own, you're telling me you can't put an algorithm to stop hate or to stop bad words? They can do whatever they want, but they generate money with hate. They don't care what's happening on that.
It's true.
Now, I go back to a very good point. It's an amazing tool. because you have some people that can sometimes start a company for a restaurant, or you can be under an alias to make sure that you can unfold what's happening in your country if it's not right what's happening. So you can
raise funds.
You can inform us about what's happening all over the world. The problem is, it's not social media, it's human beings.
Yeah, it's people.
But you still have the capacity to create algorithms to stop it. And they don't, because they, again, generate money through hate. It's exactly what it is. And so that's why I came out. I came out that day. It did generate something, a lot of sport, like the English FA and a lot of federation that weekend came off social media. But they came back on it. I'm still out. I'm okay. And I know that sometimes I might be losing a lot of money. We know why. But I'm aligned with myself.
And
I'm
that's
okay. I don't have a problem with it. I don't want to be dependent of it.
I got a great question. Like, you guys, do you feel like failure is a step to the success?
Absolutely.
It's a must.
It's a part of
Absolutely,
life,
100%.
I think.
It's a must.
Without failure, there is not a success.
Yes.
Because whatever you do and
You have to
maybe
try.
succeed without really fail, until you fail that you really know like what you were doing.
You have to go through it.
And from my own experience, I'm just speaking from my own experience. The first time I fought, I get in the UFC and I was going there. I mean, I signed in the UFC just after 2 years of doing the sport. But I was just this guy, strong, coming from Africa. Basically, I didn't know anything about the sport. I wasn't even going to do MMA. And then one day I'm like, oh, we have a UFC contract here for you. I'm like, why not? At the end of the day, I'm looking for an opportunity and this seems to be a great one. I went to the UFC. I didn't know the rules by that time, right? But I was just blessed by a string and this. And sometimes I get into the fight and then I barely touch somebody and then he's in the floor. I'm like, why is it in the floor? Then I'm like, you knock him out. I'm like, I don't know. So it become very easy for me, right?
Exactly.
And the problem is that I get used to that. I start thinking that I'm really the man. You know, like, okay, I have that, you know, until the day that I get into this fight. And this was the first time that I fought for the title. I fought against Stipe and it didn't go my way. You know, I would really go there to like, I'm going to knock him out. Stuff, right? Easy, right? It didn't go my way. I have to go all the way to the 5-round fight. And I never even been in 3 rounds, even 2 rounds in my life. I mean, whatever was my career, 2 years, 3 years, I never been in, experienced that. So I have a lack of experience of a long fight, which is like three rounds. Then I find myself in the title fight, which is 5 rounds, without ever fight a 3-round fight. So
you have to adapt.
I have to learn, not adapt.
Yeah, to
I
learn.
have nothing to adapt. I just have to learn at that night. And then after that night, at the press conference, I lost the fight by far. I mean, I was in the fight at some point, out of energy, gas out. And now I'm like, this guy is really weak. Otherwise, he could have knocked me out now. What are we doing here, right? And then, but after the fight, I went to the press conference and people was like, okay, what do you think happened tonight and this? I'm like, listen, we are not going to make any excuse, but tonight I have learned more than I have learned from my past 4 years into this game. And I meant it. You know, it might sound cliche, but I meant it at that night. Because from there on, any fight that I was having, I even have a rematch with him 2 years after. But at that time, I had a number, you know, because from the previous fight, which was a failure, I learned everything from it. I know the guy from top to bottom. You know, like I was prepared. But if it wasn't from that first fight that I have lost, I could have lost against him at that time again, because I could have done the same mistake, because maybe I didn't understand the same thing, the thing that I understood at that point. But based on our first fight, I knew that, and I went there very confident, but not overconfident. I know that I'm gonna beat this guy. I know the guy. I have learned. you know. So I think failure is very important to build a success.
It's a must. It's a must. I always say, or you win or you learn. You don't lose, you learn. And
But you lose also.
you learn.
You only lose when you don't
try.
You only lose. I think you lose when you don't try because you're afraid of losing.
Yeah, but it's hard to accept
of losing
it.
is exactly what
it's hard
makes
to
you
accept
But that's
it.
a different ball game. But technically, as Francis just said, and I'm convinced of that, you win or you learn, because there is a learning process into that. Like I said, and I'm with Francis on that. It is really cliche, but it's so true. The only time you really fail and you lose is when you don't
Give everything.
It's
try.
when you
Maybe
don't
they
try.
try.
Yeah,
And if you don't,
Just give it a
again,
try.
how many times you went in that water and dive?
6. I failed 6 times. I succeeded the 7th time.
That's what I'm saying. So you learn. Okay, I went there. That's where they caught me.
And the
I
7th
went
time
there.
It's better every single time.
Yes.
And the 7th time, I was well prepared. I knew a lot of things from all those 6 times. Every time I learned something. I learned some mistake that we have done. I learned this. I find myself to the point that I was in the middle of the ocean with a boat, with a raft. We put a disc like this to avoid a rudder, because I already know. You know, all those little
didn't
secrets.
know it at
All
the
those
first
little
time you
secrets,
could-
I knew
That's
it
what
at
I'm
that
saying,
time
but you
already.
gotta go.
Right? I have to learn.
He would have lost.
That's why
if
it's
he didn't
important
go
to
back.
try. It's important to
He would have
try
lost
in
if
life.
he didn't go back.
Trying is everything. If you don't try, you're losing.
Exactly.
And one also, as you said, failure is a must, because when you win, you celebrate. When you lose, you question yourself.
That's true.
Because,
for example, that's true.
you're a champion, you're a winner, you feel like
Yeah,
you're
but
the
it's
man,
normal, so
you
what?
have everybody number, you celebrate, you're the best in the world, people praise you, you're the guy. But when you lose, you take yourself back, you think about, why do I lose today? What can I do better? But when you win, you don't do that. You feel like you're the man.
And this is
like it's normal,
So
but it's not
failure
normal.
builds you even better than success.
But I'll have to say, special champions question themselves when they win.
Oh, for sure. Because as I said before, you can
Think
finish
about
a
It takes a lot to understand that.
No, I know. That's what I said.
It's different
Special
for
champion.
arts,
So
I
first,
think. No, please,
sorry.
you were
I was
yeah.
just saying, first and foremost, you got to be a champion to be a special champion.
First, you have to be a champion.
Okay, so special champion question themselves when they are at the top, not when they're at the bottom.
There is one difference between arts and sports now that I'm listening. It's very interesting, super interesting, because I'm learning things also on
'Cause
my
what is failure
artistic
for
career.
you?
Exactly, that's the thing. Your failure is more objective because somebody did that movement which was not like it has to be, or I don't know, or was not faster enough, or somebody was faster.
Yeah.
It's more objective. It's subjective with us. So when you do a competition or something, they judge you. Of course, if you are not in a good shape or you do some mistakes, this is different. You have to be in a good shape like all of us. But apart that, there is an interpretation, creativity, which is very personal. It's individual, and I think you are an artist or you are not. You can be an artist with your profession, but not be a real artist. There are some stories like that, in my opinion. Again, it's subjective. There are some artists that are famous artists or had a career, but in my opinion, they're not
that good.
It's not really art for me. It's more like they're professionals, but there is not really art happening there. And there are people who are not even artists as professionals, but they have some kind of artistry or art kind of feeling or sensitivity, which is quite artistic. But when you're on stage and you're judged on a competition, for example, by also your colleagues that are usually older than you are, because you're usually quite young when you're doing competitions, they're judging you and saying that somebody is better than you when it's subjective.
It's just about their feelings.
It is, or also about
Because maybe
system,
it's- because
also a
maybe it's
little
not
bit
true,
about,
yeah.
you don't know, some people think they're true to their opinions, some are really true to their opinions, and
It's
some
the
are
same thing in
simply
boxing
corrupt,
also.
like in everything. It can also happen. But when they put you in a loser position, it questions you on what is objectivity in this world, artistic world. Can we really judge people? Can we really judge art? It questions you on that matter and not on whether your interpretation or your individuality in that case was really an art or not. It's very subtle, and it can put you in a position of huge doubt, which can sometimes not be so productive, because if you're a sensitive artist and somebody tells you, no, you are not good enough, you may simply not want again to share your art with public, for example. There are lots of, have you seen the movie Amadeus, for example, of Mozart? And it's different than sports. Like they are quite sometimes vulnerable or breakable at certain point, because they're so much artists and so artistic in their way of being. And then society is so hard on them because you have more talent, they can be tougher on you, etc. So it's a little different with us, but I would say if you know that you have done your maximum on a way of discipline, because when you're performing, it's not just creating something, it's also being in a good shape. You have to technically be fine, and your memory should be fine, because you have to play by heart, etc. This is, of course, you learn a lot from sports, but then there's another subject which is completely different. It can be breakable when you're too criticized or put in a position of a loser. It can be also that.
You have it, no, I mean, no disrespect, but we have it also. What's difficult? We have it on the spot. So, for example, if I'm about to take a free kick or a penalty, which I need maximum concentration.
Yeah, I know. I've seen that. It's
maximum concentration.
Crazy.
Maximum
It's
concentration.
crazy. It's
I'm out
crazy.
of breath. I'm tired, and everybody's insulting me.
It's the end of the.
Or encouraging me. But when you see a golfer putting, everything is silent. But at that moment, as a footballer, let's say you take a free kick, you need maximum concentration and no noise.
And it's hard.
And that's when they're the loudest. But there is
and
something.
It's not just you; it's also the country. It's also the whole people
saying,
behind you. It's your whole responsibility on your shoulders. It's huge.
And you get your approval right there, and you still need to play.
Yes.
Which is, but I have something that sums up. I mean, I don't know if you know my coach, Joaquim Francisco Filho. I had him at Clairefontaine. This guy was, I mean, I spoke to him this morning. I often speak to him. And he always, I had coaches, but he was one of the coaches that developed my brain. A lot of people can develop your body, but he developed my brain. So this morning he said something to me. I said, Coach, you're too good. The way he speaks to me is on a different planet. It's not him saying it, but when he said it to me, he's always reading books and he can speak a lot of language. And we were talking about something, and you can put the word sport. I'm going to have to say it in French. I don't know who's going to translate that. We all understand French here. But he said to me, you can put sport. You can change the name if you want. You can change the word. But he said to me, le sport n'est pas une science exacte. Which we all know that.
It's true.
Well, we all know that. Mais il est étayé par toutes les sciences.
Okay.
Le sport, peu importe, n'est pas une science exacte, mais il est étayé par toutes les sciences.
Yeah, it's very interesting.
C'est une belle phrase et je pense qu'on va terminer là-dessus, sinon je vais me faire foncer. Mais...
Ça,
Great one. I have to reflect about it.
Yeah, it's a great, deep, really deep.
you got to think about that one.
I
don't know how they're going to translate.
We can finish with
Étayé.
it. It's good.
Yeah,
It's a good
I think we can finish on that.
Étayé.
Yeah.
What's in
But
English?
to be
Étayé.
continued.
That's tough.
To be continued.
Yeah.
To be
Exactly.
continued.
Exactly.
So guys, really thank you for
Thanks
that
for coming.
moment. It was really a blast. And thank you for sharing all of that. I'm really proud of that moment that we share together.
Exactly, especially because it's the first episode.
Yes.
So thanks
thank
for
you.
for everybody to
best.
come in. Exactly. Exactly.
best.
But it was a great moment. I think we shared great talks about life in general.
Yeah.
And we just want to permit people to think differently, because as I said, the society where we are today, it's hard to live in that. So it was just good, and thanks for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Great.
Merci. Thank you, guys. Thank you for the show.